Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Eye of the Storm Astrology. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be doing a chart analysis of a very important event that happened recently. And this is the press conference that Dr. Stephen Greer held. For those of you who haven't checked that out, I will end up linking it in the comments at the end here so you guys can also look at that. But you can also just type it in YouTube, recent Dr. Stephen Greer disclosure project video, and it'll pop right up. But this event, they disclose some very important things. Obviously that, we're not alone in this universe, but I think it was very interesting for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into it as I actually dive into the charts. But this is a very, very important thing. There's a lot of information coming out here, and there's actually, this is some of the first time we're actually seeing things like the information of universal law be spoken about in a much more public way. So I think there are some definitely very interesting things to take note. So we'll look at these charts here and go ahead and just do a breakdown of everything. Let me get everything pulled up here. And if you guys have any questions at all as I'm going along, feel free to type them in the comments, and I will check those periodically, and then I'll do a Q&A at the end as well. Okay, so I'll pull up the chart here. So for those of you who don't know how to read a Vedic style chart, this is a North Indian style chart, commonly referred to as a diamond chart. The top center diamond here in the middle, where it says ASC, that obviously stands for ascendant. This is always going to be what's known as the lagna, or the first house. In the North Indian style chart, the houses stay the same. So this box will always be the first house. And then the signs change. So this, depending on what lagna person is, different signs will be in the first house, right? Makes sense. Simple enough. And you're going to count counterclockwise. So obviously after Virgo, there's Libra, then Scorpio, Sagittarius. So there's the basis of how to read this style of chart. So the main theme of this event that they were speaking about was disclosure. And this happened on the 12th of this month at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It went from 2 to 4. So 2 p.m. is the chart that I have pulled up here for those of you actually wanting the information. And keep in mind, this is done off of a Vedic style chart, so sidereal calculations. A lot of interesting stuff going on here. First off, the lagna is in the nakshatra of Virgo, in the sign of Virgo, in the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni. Both of these interesting for their own reasons. Virgo being a sign that is the internal expression of Mercury, and this meeting was all about revealing communication, information, knowledge, technologies, these type of mercurial things, and how they've been hidden, how they've been repressed. So we can see this with that Virgo energy coming out, and as well as a lot of these technologies that have been hidden also have the ability for healing our planet, for solving a lot of our problems that we're facing. So again, this very much is in alignment with that Virgo energy. So it is no coincidence at all that this was the lagna. Now, and I'm going to hit on each of these very quickly because there's a lot to look at, and even with that, looking at the whole chart is still going to take us a little while. But the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni, it's a pair. There's certain nakshatras that they kind of come in pairs, and there's always going to be a Purva and a Uttara. The Purva is the earlier, Uttara is the later. Uttara Phalguni is all about contracts. It's all about relationships, things coming together. But what were they disclosing? Well, they were disclosing the fact that there's been hidden contact with other beings. They've been disclosing the fact that there were contracts made, that there's even, secret, shadowy entities that are running these secret programs, these type of things. A lot of that was being brought to the surface and exposed so people could see it. So this is why it comes up in the lagna, it comes up in the ascendant. The sun, and I'll go through each of the planets here, but they're each important for a very, very interesting reason. The sun being in Mrigashira nakshatra in the sign of Taurus, and then Mercury is conjunct there, but it's in Kritika. Well, Mrigashira is symbolized by the searching deer, the questing deer. So sun being here is going to show collectively, like, these were issues that deals with the quest of our soul. who are we really as being? Who's the essence of what we really are? And for those of you who haven't watched this yet, these are some of the things Dr. Greer gets into. He explains that there are universal laws that apply to everybody, including the principle of self-defense, these type of things. So we, as a conscious collective, as a species, are now in a much more public way experiencing these truths, where we're starting there is this collective searching going on. We're trying to get to the truth of things because we're realizing that we've been lied to. A lot has been hidden from us. And then Mercury being in Kritika, Mercury, the planet of communication, of intellect, of understanding. Kritika Nakshatra is symbolized by a blade or an axe. It's all about being very critical. In fact, that's in Sanskrit, that's where we get our word critical from. It means to cut, to separate apart. Okay, it's what a blade does. It cuts things. So Mercury in Kritika, and this is what Mercury does. It cuts things. It's the intellect. It picks apart. From Mercury does very well here. So Mercury is going to be in a nakshatra where not only is it bringing in the stability and the groundedness of Taurus, but the communication is cutting things apart. And if you look at the way Dr. Greer presented himself, he was very stable. He's very grounded. All the speakers, all the witnesses were very grounded in the way that they presented their information, but it was straight and to the point, and they were focusing on details. And there was definitely this information. They're trying to cut through the illusions. They're trying to cut through the lies. This being a very strong theme here. And cutting through the lies is part of this quest for the truth that we're seeing with the sun and Mrigashira Nakshatra. And this is all coming from the 9th house. Well, the 9th house can represent our spirituality, our quest, higher wisdom. It's the original home of Sagittarius. So we're realizing here that these revelations are also bringing spiritual knowledge, understanding of our universe, understanding of the laws of how our universe actually operates are now coming into play for everybody to look at. And we want to really keep in mind, too, with this Mercury in Taurus and the nakshatra of Kritika, that Mercury is also the dispositor of the whole chart here because it rules the sign of Virgo. So it's going to have a huge effect, not only on that first house, but as well as the 10th house of Gemini, because Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini. And what's the 10th house? What things are known for, the fame. So what's going on? What was this conference all about? Is all about communication, opening up, revealing the lies, these type of things. This was being disposited by Mercury. So what type of communication were we looking at? We're looking at communication of things that had to be critical, that, him even distinguishing between crafts that are man-made by black ops and crafts that are of another origin. There's this distinguishing, these looking at different things. If you go back and actually look at what he's saying, you'll definitely see this element in the communication, where it's this looking at different pieces and trying to separate them out into who's actually culpable for what, that type of a theme. Then we can see Moon in Pisces and Revati in the 7th house. So as we have this energy of Virgo in the first house of learning about these things, finding about these hidden secrets, learning about technologies that can heal, can solve problems, the way this reflects to how it relates to all of us is this Moon in Pisces type of energy. And what it does is it's actually going to reveal to us higher spiritual truths, that wisdom that is inherent in Pisces. And the nakshatra specifically that this falls into is Revati Nakshatra. And Revati Nakshatra is ruled by the deity Pushan. For those of you who don't know, in Vedic astrology, we have 27 lunar constellations known as nakshatras. Each of these is ruled by their own deity. They have their own associations with scents and trees and animals, etc., etc. And by understanding each of these, we can understand more about the nakshatras. But Pushan is the guide. He's the shepherd. And when you start learning about some of these other civilizations and the fact that they're here for the benefit of consciousness, the benefit of other things, they want to act as guides, as shepherds, help us evolve. This is where we see Revati Nakshatra coming in. So what we can see with this play between that Virgo in the first there and the moon in Pisces in the seventh, that Revati Nakshatra, is that there were hidden truths about our guides, hidden truths about the origin of what we really are. And these were coming out. These are now coming out. So we're realizing our divinity. And the way we're going to connect to that is intuitively, emotionally. If you start doing practices such as CE5, they're going to be things that are a lot more through the right brain or the feminine type of energy. Excuse me. So the next thing I want to look at here is Mars and Venus in the sign of Cancer in the 11th house, which is going to deal with the larger social network circle. And that Mars is in Asletia and Venus is in Pushya. There's a few things we can see from this. So in short, Mars being, our willpower, strength, but it can also be in regards to dealing with governments and things like this. We can see the military, this, just to get very quick and to the point with it. Being in Cancer, this can be, Mars is typically actually debilitated here. So it can mean Mars could be acting in an unhealthy way. The military could be doing things that aren't actually correct. And then Venus deals with relationships, building things, the beauty in life. The nakshatra Pushya that it falls into is all about nurturing. It's symbolized by a cow's udder or a lotus blossom. So it is a nakshatra that if there was a nakshatra that you wanted to summarize as the one that embodied the essence of maternal energy, this is Pushya. So Venus in Pushya here shows that there should have been this element of nurturing for humanity there going on. But what was happening is Mars could have been coming in here and, in this sense, revealing how those relationships have been controlled. Those have been kind of constricted, have been kept hidden. The nakshatra that Mars is in, Asletia nakshatra, is a nakshatra ruled by the Nagas. Many people associate them with reptilian beings, but they're serpents, and the Nagas are not evil things, so don't go off on that train. But Asletia nakshatra is a nakshatra that deals with hidden things, secret knowledge, poisons, hidden wisdom, secrets. All of these different type of things are a strong theme with Asletia nakshatra. So we can see here that militaries, governments could have actually been hiding things in such a way, hiding secrets, that things that could very much emotionally damage a lot of people when they come to realize them. Okay, this is kind of a play that we can see going on here. So this is something that's going to have a large effect for a lot of people. It's going to affect a lot of people's relationships, not only with themselves, but obviously with other people. Many different belief systems, religions that, may have certain very limiting beliefs about who they think we are in the universe and how our history works and what books they take their truth from. Those are going to be shattered because all of a sudden, the truth is revealed that it's just not the case anymore. We're moving into a new level of awareness, new reality. Now, here's some placements that we're going to get into that I find are some of the even more interesting ones. And this is Rahu and Jupiter conjunct in the sign of Aries in the 8th house. And they're both in the Shwini nakshatra. Okay, so what can we see from this? Jupiter is being a guru, right? He's wisdom, he's protection, he expands things, he's weighty things, he can be protection. And Rahu is the trickster. If you want to associate a deity that's for a lot of people easy to relate to, Loki. Loki, that's Rahu, okay? This is the north node of the moon. Jupiter in Aries is all about the guru going and revealing the truths that he has discovered, going out and fighting for the things that he believes in. Rahu in Aries is going out and conquering our desires, these type of things. Now, these being in the 8th house, what we can see is that from a collective standpoint, people who we were looking to as teachers, as people we trusted, as people to protect us, who we thought were gurus, for a lot of people, that's government, right? That they were actually lying to us, that their desires and what they said they were doing, that it was an illusion. Because this is Rahu. Rahu's a shadow planet. He casts illusions on things. He's a trickster. And he's a trickster for a reason. There's a reason behind it. But we can see an illusion was being cast here. And it definitely had to do with the military-industrial complex. Because we see it going on in the sign of Aries. Okay. Now, the nakshatra that this falls into is a very interesting one, because it's a Shwini nakshatra. And this is symbolized by a chariot. It has an energy of charging forward. It's always associated with the Ashwinis, which are two deities that throughout the mythology, they end up having horse heads, but they are great healers. They have a lot of secret knowledge. So we can see here that the Ashwini energy with this chariot, what does that symbolize in the modern time? That symbolizes vehicles. So what were we seeing here? We're seeing information about vehicles that are very fast, vehicles that are unusual, and that they've been hidden away. Hidden by who? People that we thought were supposed to be protecting us. See how that works? Because Rahu is unusual things that are outside of the norm, and it's hidden things. The 8th house is associated with hidden things, secrets, things that appear to come up suddenly, but they're not actually sudden. The reason this is the 8th house on the horizon, it's the time right before sunset. And why sunset can appear, oh, it was light out and all of a sudden it's dark. It appears to happen suddenly. It's really not. It was coming all day. We don't always see it coming. The same thing with this. It was going on for a long time, and now it appears that it's coming out in the open. And it appears like it's a bit of a sudden thing. But seeing this thing about vehicles that are, and these are expansive vehicles, these are Jupiterian vehicles. These are technologies that can create abundance in the world. They can be used for defense, protection, a lot of different reasons. These can all be seen with that Jupiter-Rahu conjunction in Ashwini in that 8th house. So those secret things are now being revealed, and being revealed in a big way, because Jupiter is a planet that expands, and it expands things in a slow way. But Rahu is the planet that it's like a nuclear bomb. It just hits the button and it blows things up in a big way. So when you get the combination of these, we can see that there's not only going to be an initial explosive effect, but that effect is going to resonate, and it's going to go out, and it's going to grow and solidify and gain gravity and weight over time, because this is what Jupiter is. He's heavy. He draws things to himself. So that knowledge that is coming out is only going to gain weight over time. What else can we see here? We can see that Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius in the 6th house in Shatabishak Nakshatra. Well, Saturn deals with cosmic law. It can deal with boundaries. It can deal with, it can represent governments to some extent, because they try to be the law. They try to be Saturn, but it's more that they're trying to emulate Saturn than it is that Saturn represents them. But in the sign of Aquarius, well, this is where Saturn is actually in its Mula Dracona sign. So in Vedic astrology, this is where the planet feels the most at home. It's the sign it does the best in. So this is where Saturn takes the lessons it's been trying to teach us about being disciplined, having boundaries, understanding cosmic law, understanding sovereignty. And now we apply those to the Aquarian things. We apply those to society. And we have to get serious. We have to look at, Where have we been lied to? What things are we doing that are wasting our energy? Where have boundaries been violated? Where have people been misusing that Saturnian energy and controlling people and, kidnapping them and taking them away, doing whatever type of things with them? Those type of things can be seen with this energy here. And the nakshatra of Shatabishak is symbolized by this energy of being able to hear lots of things. It and Shravana nakshatra in Capricorn have this association with hearing. Dhanishta as well. And Shatabishak is also known as the 100 healers. So we're dealing with lots of things that can bring healing to the world, these technologies that can help in a lot of different ways, especially as we see energy crisis and things happening. If you're not aware of what's going on in Europe right now in regards to energy crisis, pay attention to it. It's not looking good. So these type of things were being discussed, and it's in the 6th house. So it can deal with karmas. It can deal with service to society, but also like illnesses, debts, legal issues, these type of things. These are all issues that were brought up here because so many different violations happened against humanity, so many different things that were done wrong that, boundaries need to be enacted upon. Like certain, people violate natural law, they need to be brought to some sort of accountability. So then you bring in legal things, you bring in having to organize and get discipline and focus as people build cases, as people expose information. This all requires a lot of organization and discipline and focus and staying determined towards these things. Even seeing Saturn's play at this, Dr. Greer, he's been at this over 30 years. Well, complete Saturn cycle around the chart is 30 years. So it's a Saturnian thing that even him and the Disclosure Project that they were doing, and they were doing it for the benefit of society, of revealing these things, of showing these things and highlighting them so people can see them. Lastly, let's look at the planet Ketu. Now, Ketu being in the 2nd house in Libra here in the Swati Nakshatra. The 2nd house represents things that we value. It represents our stored wealth. So in regards to society's chart, in regards to this conference, what was going to be revealed here was the hidden wealth that people didn't know they had, because Ketu is the south node of the moon, and he in Vedic mythology is a headless serpent. So it can have this effect of us not necessarily knowing about things there in an intellectual way. Now, Ketu has an intuitive knowledge. So, for example, with a lot of these subjects, a lot of people have intuitively known this, right? They've had this understanding for a long time. But now the actual knowledge is being revealed. Now, the nakshatra Ketu is Swati. And Swati is all about truth, speaking, communication, things being done, but in a way that is honest. People with Swati dispositions are very much honest people. It really drives them nuts for things to see lies, to see distortions put out there. It's also a nakshatra that deals with freedom, wanting to share, connect with people, have a balanced, fair interactions with people. They don't want things to be imbalanced. They don't like when they feel like they're tied down or people are being controlled or taken advantage of. So Ketu and Swati is going to show that, like, intuitively people have this understanding of that they're being deceived on some level, that there was some truth out there that they weren't being told. But the actual articulation of it, the actual proof of it, hadn't really come out yet. The head wasn't there. But now that's coming out, and now people are seeing how much they're going to value it. It's going to be a type of thing that it hits them on a heart-based level, because K2, why it doesn't have a head, it has a heart. So it's that intuitive intelligence, that heart-based intelligence. So people, as they go and try to incorporate this information in their life, for some people it's going to be really easy. They're like, oh yeah, I knew that all along. But for others, that it's not going to be so easy. So for those who this may be very new information, that's a bit of advice, is tap into that intuitive knowledge, tap into that heart-based knowledge, and relax into it. Because as you do, it becomes a lot easier to accept these higher truths. And they're not bad things to understand. They're things that are very freeing to us. This is what K2 also is. K2 is moksha. K2 is relief. K2 is release. So the knowledge coming out that we're not just these physical bodies, that we're consciousness having a human experience. What does that do? When you really understand that, that gives you a state of relief. That gives you a state of release. That gives you moksha. Because you know that you're beyond just this thing. So even if this was to perish, it doesn't matter. Your experience goes beyond just this one. So this is the type of knowledge that was being revealed in this conference if you pay attention and you listen closely. And again, mentioning universal laws, cosmic laws, these were themes that were coming out in this. And this is stuff that has not been out in the public on that type of a level really for a long time. It's mostly been very niche people referring to natural law and cosmic law and teaching that. So seeing it come out in that kind of a way is something worth taking note of. So let me hop over here and check the chat and see if we have any questions at all. Okay. Not seeing anything at the moment. I'll leave it up here. Let's pull up this chart one more time here and see what else we can see. So we're going to see, looking in regards to aspects. Obviously, every planet exchanges with itself. And if you don't know how aspects work, I actually did a short video on aspects earlier today. You can go previously on my YouTube or my Facebook or TikTok, check that out. And quick little 2-minute video, I explain how aspects work. But they all look across 7 places from themselves. So we're going to see an exchange here between this K2 energy and this Rahu and Jupiter energy. So that what I was talking about in regards to this Rahu and Jupiter energy of like the military industrial complex, keeping secret hidden vehicles that were unusual, that were abnormal, technologies that were very quick, highly developed, and had been weaponized, them keeping those things secret, that was going to affect and aspect the second house. So of our collective values, it's going to affect people in a way when they realize like, oh, we've been lied to on this sort of level, that this has been out there, and yet they're still fighting wars over oil. They're still murdering civilians over petty supplies, all of these different things that we see, not just one government, but the larger force at whole doing. This stuff is all becoming exposed now. And that those are things that, again, are going to really hit people in a deep way, that they may not even understand how it's going to affect them at first, because this is something that it's not just this knowledge coming out. The effect of it, as I mentioned earlier, with that Rahu and Jupiter effect, it's going to grow. There's going to be a big wave at first, but then it's going to expand, and it's going to gain that gravity and that force as it goes on. So as more of these things get exposed, as some of these technologies are released, as more of this knowledge becomes commonplace for people to start actually integrating it, that's when we're really going to see the effects. And people may not actually be able to completely understand what those are, but they might be able to feel it intuitively. We can also see here that this moon in Pisces is going to be aspecting the Lagna, exchanging with the Lagna here. So it's going to show that those higher spiritual truths, those things that we're realizing, are coming to light. And this information is information that ultimately is going to lead to healing, to contemplation, allowing us to be better problem solvers, to start hopefully developing better communication. Because when you see a mixture of Moon and Pisces aspecting on Virgo, you're going to get an interplay between Moon and Mercury. Mercury being the left brain and the logic and our communication, and the Moon being our emotions, our higher mind, our intuition. And when we can have a healthy interplay between these, that's when we start stepping into the type of consciousness where we can unify our minds, where we can actually have a balanced place of being. And this again will be reflected with that K2 in Libra in a second. Because K2 can show where there's a mastery of things. The sign of Libra is about balance. So we're going to have to learn how to intuitively, through heart-based knowledge, learn to bring ourselves back into balance. This is another thing that's going to come out as people start to integrate this knowledge, that a lot of the things that you're going to be doing, whether it's a specific meditation or breath work or C5, something like that, these are going to be intuitively done practices. And there's going to be themes of communication involved with them. So if you haven't watched that press conference, go back, check it out, and I will actually make sure I post it in the comments here and get it for everybody. Let me find it here real quick. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so there's the YouTube link for this conference. I go check that out, because as you actually pay attention and you take notes of what they're saying, take notes of what's being discussed, if you haven't watched it already, then go back and watch this video, and that chart is going to make a lot more sense. Vincent, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. I'm actually just about to wrap up here, but I appreciate you stopping in. If anybody has any questions on this chart before I wrap up here, I'll give you just a couple more minutes to ask any, and I will then wrap this up. And if you guys are interested in learning about Vedic astrology more, I do have 2 free courses that I just released out. All you have to do is enter your email. Make sure you confirm that whenever you do enter it, and then it will send you the email link with the free downloads of the courses, so you can start studying Vedic astrology. And I really base these courses off of the understanding of cosmic law, the foundations of Vedic philosophy, and really the mindset and foundational understanding that you need to start practicing the science of astrology. And this would apply whether you're a Vedic or Western astrologer. The same mindset, the same understanding could apply. So if you guys are interested in those courses, you can see here on the bottom, you can go visit that link, and I'll also post it in the comments here, and you guys can check that out. So last little bit, this Mars in Aslecia is also going to be aspecting not only this K2 in Libra, so that energy of the second house that I spoke about with things being hidden. So again, we can see this repeated theme of like a military industrial complex that they've been keeping secrets from people. That would be the really short summary that you could get out of one thing that you could get out of that. But Mars would also be aspecting the 5th house of education in Capricorn, which shows that they've been keeping knowledge hidden and controlled, because Capricorn can deal with control, and it's an internal expression of Saturn. So we could see that this knowledge is and even knowledge about natural law, universal laws. That's how a lot of this technology operates. It's based off of the understanding of physics and universal laws and how these things actually operate in our universe. These things were hidden. They were kept secret. They were even, you can even see serpents spend a lot of their time underground. There was a lot of information about underground bases and things being revealed. Mars is also going to be aspecting Saturn here. So in this house of karmas, in this house of our karma as a society, things we have to deal with, we can see that, oh, no, there is a rogue industrial complex out there. There are people who don't have the best intentions for humanity out there that absolutely have no problem committing atrocities to achieve what they want. And it's our karma as a society to start looking at these problems and saying, no, we're not going to do this. Because Aquarius is a sign that is all about standing up to injustice, standing up to the things that we see are wrong. And when you have Saturn there, the ruler of Aquarius, and it's Mula Tricone sign, it shows that it's time to do the work. We've known it, we've seen it coming, but now it's time to do the work. We actually have to take those lessons of Saturn and apply them as a whole as a society. But when you apply the lessons of Saturn, you get the rewards. And this is one thing people forget with Saturn too. They like to speak about how it puts pressure and the challenge and these type of things, and that is 100% true. But the reason Saturn does this is because as you apply the lessons, the pressure goes off. Saturn is just that like cosmic coach that we hired to kind of put us in check whenever we're out of line. So when it comes here, it's showing us that no, we have major karma to deal with as a species here. That there are certain things that we can no longer allow. There are injustices happening. There are wrongs being done. There's natural laws being violated. And we just cannot tolerate them anymore. And the revelation of this stuff doesn't just apply to this event. You know, these energies are at play all over. There's a lot of revelations coming out in regards to government and political corruption in many different countries, not just the United States. Things being exposed about the lies of the last few years, and I'll just leave it at that. All of these things are starting to come out. So we as a society are going to start having to karmically deal with these and actually start laying down boundaries and saying, this is what we are going to tolerate. This is what we're not going to tolerate. And this is the world that we want to build. So this is going to be a strong theme that we see coming out more and more. And Saturn is now retrograde. And I actually did a short video about that the other day. You should go check that out. Some of the things that we're going to be seeing as an effect of Saturn being retrograde over the next period of time, and things that we're going to see coming out. And it's a lot of the stuff I've been talking about in this chart. It's going to be that type of energy, but it's going to become more amplified. It's going to become more serious. People are going to really start looking at things. You know, it'll be Saturn retrograde will have this effect of looking back. So we'll be having to look back as a society and see, well, where did we go wrong? Where did we allow injustices to happen that we shouldn't have allowed them? And now, how do we go address those? How do we try to resolve those? And how do we make sure that they don't ever happen again? These are going to be big themes we see coming up here. So I'll check the chat one more time here. I don't see any other questions right now. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this was valuable for you guys. I'll be doing more of these lives. I plan on doing one here probably every day or every other day, as well as all the other content that I'm putting up. If there's any specific subject you guys would like me to speak about, if there's some questions on astrology, there's a specific thing you would like to ask me questions about, take advantage of this, guys. This is you being able to have complete free access to pick your brain, or to be able to pick my brain whenever I do these. So I definitely encourage you to, you know, if you do want to learn astrology, by all means, I'm here to answer questions. So tune into these and make sure that you ask them. I'm definitely completely open to spending time going into depth, helping people learn the science. That really is my goal. So thank you for tuning in, guys, and I will see you next time.